Thank you, Gail, for always being a part of our member virtual chat and taking care of all of our technical pieces on the back end while I'm tackling everything here live on grounds for all of you guys. So again, thank you for tuning in for another member virtual chat. As I said, we have traveled around the zoo, around the world to see some of our amazing species here at the zoo. And we have one more that we have not talked about, but we're doing that today, this morning. And this morning, I am also being joined by Bethany, who is one of our zookeepers. And the species we are going to be talking about, of course, is the Lar Gibbon. And I'm going to flip our camera around because Bethany is standing over here. And we have Billy, our gibbon, right up at the front here. So hello, Bethany. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. So Bethany is one of our fabulous zookeepers here. And we have Billy. Billy, again, is our male Lar Gibbon, and he just turned 48 years old. So 48. We have his birthday as January 1st because when we got him in, he was born 1973, and when we got him, they didn't have an exact birth date for him. So animals that don't have exact birth dates, even though he was born in a zoo, sometimes back in the early 70s, we didn't have as great as records as we do now. They get dubbed with a January 1st birth date. So we get to celebrate Billy's birthday every first of the year, which is exciting. 2021. We are hoping to have a great 2021 and celebrating the 48th birthday of Mr. Billy Gibbons. Billy's been here for a very long time, and he is a fabulous species. The Lar Gibbon is a lesser ape, and so they are related to our great apes and also related to us as humans. They have about 96% of the same genetic makeup or the DNA as humans does, and so we are very closely related to our primates, to our great apes, and even to our lesser apes. And of course, the best way to tell between a monkey and an ape is apes don't have tails. Yes, apes don't have tails. Monkeys do. So our gibbons do not have tails, and that's the best way to be able to tell the difference between a monkey and an ape. So Bethany, this morning, I've got my mic on. We may not be able to hear Bethany that well. Actually, let me flip one over so that we might be able to hear Bethany up there on my boom mic. Bethany, what are we feeding Billy?
Yeah, so this morning he has a mixture of fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Right now, as a special treat, I have some banana for him. Bananas, of course, they're pretty high in sugar, so we use that for training and special treats for him. But his normal diet consists of carrots and sweet potatoes, nuts, apples, pears, and that kind of food.
So gibbons are omnivores. They're true omnivores, but about 60% of their diet does consist of fruits and vegetables, but they will also eat insects and bird eggs. And I have witnessed Billy catch sparrows right out of the sky. So Bethany, one of the things that this species is known for is their amazing brachiation, or being able to swing in the trees. So brachiation just means being able to swing in the trees, and they can swing at around 30 miles an hour, brachiate around 30 miles an hour, and they make leaps of around 50 feet at a time from branch to branch. So they are the most agile and fastest tree-dwelling mammals. So that's outside of our birds, of course, which do reach higher speeds. But for our tree-dwelling mammals, they are the fastest species on the planet. Now, Bethany, with Billy being 48 years old, median life expectancy for this species is around 40. So he is considered a geriatric animal. Being a geriatric animal, that means that we take some precautions and some special care. As we age, certain things start to happen to our bodies. Same thing that happens to animals. So we start to lose muscle mass. We start to get the achy bones, a little bit of arthritis, and we can become more susceptible to different diseases because our immune system isn't quite working as efficiently. And so in his older age, what are some things that we've done to kind of take care of some of these ailments that he may have?
Yeah, so just like you were saying, as animals age, they tend to have a lot of the same problems a human might. And Billy, one of his is just his ability to move around. He's not a young, agile gibbon anymore. So if you can see our habitat, we definitely try to make sure that a lot of our ropes are more accessible to him, a little bit lower. He's not kind of going up and swinging around as fast as he might have when he was younger. So we just want to make sure that his ability to move through his habitat matches up with his own ability to get around.
Now, the Lar Gibbon is part of the gibbon species, and there are 18 different species of gibbons. They all reside in Southeast Asia, so Indonesia, Phuket, the surrounding areas. And as I said, this is a rainforest species, so they will spend most of their lives high up in the tree canopies. At over 90 feet, these animals, again, swing like the most amazing acrobats you have ever seen. And the way they're able to do that is because of these wrists. So let me get a good shot up here. So they have great dexterity and strength in their arms, but their wrist acts like a ball and socket joint. So very similar to that of our shoulder joint and of our hip joints in our pelvis. And the way they can propel themselves is flipping that wrist through and being able to have that strength to grab a hold.
We lost your audio, Jed.
How about now? Do we have audio?
Yes,
Can you hear us now?
we can hear you.
Okay. These mics, I tell you, they drain batteries so quickly. So I'm going to talk a little bit louder because we're both using our boom mic here. So as I was saying, these guys will spend most of their life up in the tree, and they're not immune to being able to fall. So a lot of wild gibbons that we've studied do have fractures in their arms or in their legs from falls. They are very accurate, but if they grab a hold of a branch and that branch does break, then they can sustain a fall. Most of the time they survive that and their bones do heal up. But a lot of the wild gibbons that we have studied will see fractures or calcification in those bones, which would indicate that there had been an injury. Now, one of the things that gibbons are also known for is their amazing vocalizations. And we definitely hear that every morning. Sometimes in the kind of early afternoon, we will hear the call of the gibbon. And that's why I say that Billy is really our songwriter of Reid Park Zoo. And that song, that vocalization can be heard from miles away. And it is a way that the gibbons will communicate with each other. It is a way to attract mates. And it is also a way that the pair bonded gibbons will establish and maintain their bond. And so the Lar Gibbon, each gibbon species has a different song. And a lot of times researchers won't be able to see the gibbons, but they will be able to hear them, and they will be able to know which species it is because of the song that they are singing. And the male and female will typically do a duet where the male will sing one part of that song, and then the alpha female will step in and start to sing the other part of that song. Gibbons do live in family groups. Now, Billy is our only gibbon here at the zoo. We have had two other females that have since passed away. And at Billy's age, it can be challenging to introduce another gibbon. And so we have been looking for a potential gibbon companion for Billy, but it really has to be the right individual. And it can be really challenging relocating gibbons because it can be extremely stressful on them. And that stress can then decrease the immune system, and they can lose their life because of that. And so it's one of those kind of risk over reward things of, do we bring in another gibbon and potentially risk the life of that gibbon coming in, and or introduce that gibbon to Billy, and Billy at his age not be that accepting, and that could decrease his immunity. And so it's one of those things that we are looking for kind of the perfect match. But right now, Bethany, he's doing really well, and he likes to socialize with his keepers. Yep. But we have construction going on, and he's pretty intrigued with that construction.
Yes, we like to call him Supervisor Billy. He enjoys coming up to the corner as there's construction happening for the flamingos, and he loves to watch them. And he's usually out here first thing in the morning, right when the construction guys show up, because he just really enjoys watching what they're doing over there.
So we've been doing construction on our flamingo habitat, which is going really well. We're hoping to be completed with that construction at the end of January and moving flamingos up here in February. But we've been doing construction for about the last 9-10 months. And as Bethany said, Supervisor Billy is on point, making sure everyone is doing what they are supposed to. And Bethany, I think the construction crew is kind of falling in love with Billy also.
Yeah, I definitely think they enjoy watching him as they're working.
I hear them talking to Billy and telling him good morning, and he's up there just making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, with the calls of the gibbon, it's this great vocalization. Typically, we hear that in the morning when kind of the sun hits. Is that something that will just the sun coming up will usually stimulate that vocalization?
Yeah, so in the wild, we tend to call it a morning song because it is as the sunlight comes up and the gibbons wake up. That's usually one of the first things they do is they kind of go up into the canopy and they'll have their songs. So typically for Billy, because he's a little bit older, he likes to sleep in. His song is usually between 9:30 and 10:30.
So maybe we will get to hear his song, although he's being more stimulated and enriched by Bethany being here, hanging out and just enjoying the sun hitting him, which is what I'm enjoying right now also because I'm standing in the sun. All right, Bethany, do you want to do your best gibbon call? I'm putting you on the spot here. Do you have a gibbon call yet?
I don't think my gibbon call is nearly as beautiful as Billy, so I think I'll let the guests enjoy it rather than mine.
All right, so Billy has a call that is more kind of steady, and I'll give you my best female impersonation of a gibbon call. So here you go. So that's my version of the female. What do you think, Bethany?
I think that was good. He definitely stopped and looked at you, even as he had a banana there for a second. So
what's great with the gibbons is the dominant male and female will sing that song, and the juveniles will start learning that song. And once the juveniles start reaching sexual maturity, they will start taking over singing that song, and then the entire troop will sing it together. And gibbons are one of those species that can be monogamous, so they will pair bond with each other. And that doesn't mean that they won't, let's say, cheat on each other, but typically they will pair bond with each other, and it is a somewhat of a monogamous species, which we tend to not see in almost any other primates. And as I said, these animals live in Southeast Asia. Unfortunately, all 18 species of gibbons are endangered. Some of them are critically endangered, and that's because of loss of habitat. The main culprit for that is agriculture and the palm fields, palm oil. The trees are being cut down at an extraordinary rate, and palm plantations are being grown to supply the world with palm oil. We talk about palm oil with a lot of our animals, and although we don't live where gibbons do, we still have an impact on what happens in their world, in their land. And so if we can reduce our use of palm oil, then that reduces the need to grow those palm fields. And so there's a great app that you guys can get. It's a free download, and it's from Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, and it's a palm oil app. And it's one that I use all the time when I'm out shopping, and you can scan the barcode of any item. That item will come up and let you know if there's palm oil in the item that you are trying to purchase, and or if that palm oil is coming from a sustainable source. So not all palm oil is bad. There is some companies that are doing sustainable palm oil plantations, and those companies are really working hard to change the platform of agriculture for these species. Right now, if we are not careful, if we do not do some immediate changes, Indonesia is set to lose 98% of their rainforests. 98%. And that's an area that not only gibbons live, but orangutans are susceptible to these areas, our Asian elephants, a lot of amazing, iconic Asiatic animals that are in peril because of their land being taken down and torn apart so that palm oil plantations could go in. So we can all do a very easy step and just be cognizant as a consumer. We can be smart consumers. We can change the rhetoric, the story of these animals just by our behavior in how we shop. So I encourage all of you guys to download that app. When you go out, use that app and make smart choices that impact animals. And again, it's a really easy thing to do. For Halloween, for our boo at the zoo, palm oil is in a lot of candy, and we make sure that all the candy we purchase and hand out is palm oil free, or again, from sustainable palm forests. So Bethany, with that, I know you have a very busy day. I just want to thank you. I'm going to still hang out with our guys here, but I want to thank you for hanging out with us and for introducing Billy, our gibbon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good day, guys.
All right, we're going to say bye to Bethany. We're going to let her get back to her morning routine. She has other animals that need her help and need her care. So we're going to make sure that we send her off on her way. We'll still hang out with Mr. Billy here. And maybe once we get a little further on, we'll get to hear some of that vocalization. Sometimes if I'm staying here talking, he's more interested in what I'm doing than doing his morning call, but he's going to do a yawn. And if you, I don't know if you were able to see that yawn, but at his age, he does have his teeth that are worn down. So we do want to make sure that a lot of his food is softer food. We will mash up his food, boil his food. Sorry, we do have a little construction going on, as I said, so we might get a little construction noise coming in there as well. But gibbons are just these amazing, amazing animals. As I said, this is the Lar Gibbon, also called the White-Handed Gibbon. And you can tell why they have the white hands. Hold on, let me focus. See if it'll catch focus on here. There we go. So the White-Handed Gibbon. And unfortunately, those white hands was another reason that this species was endangered. There's some Asiatic cultures that were hunting gibbons and believed that the white hand of a gibbon was lucky or would ward off evil spirits, kind of like a lucky rabbit's foot that we commonly see here in the United States. And so gibbons were persecuted because Lar Gibbons were persecuted because of those hands. Now, not all of the Lar Gibbons have this coloration. Some of them do have a light brown or kind of a shade of brown. They're not sexually dimorphic. So sexually dimorphic means that you can tell the difference between the boys and the girls just by looking at them, either by size or by color. So if we think about some of our species like our lions, we can tell the male lion because of the great mane. Think of some bird species like peacocks. The boys have the bright, colorful feathers. So that would be examples of sexual dimorphism. Gibbons do not have that. So both the males and females are about the same size. Males are a little bit larger, but you really wouldn't be able to tell. And the coloration does vary just by genetics. So we have only had our black color and white face and white hand gibbons here. but within this species, there's different color variations that you would see. And then, of course, throughout the different 18 species of gibbons, like the Siamangs, you will have different colorations as well. Now, we do have plans for our phase 1 Asia expansion, where we will be expanding into the west part of the park, into the lower retention pond, and building a new gibbon habitat. At this point, we don't believe that Billy will move over there. Again, it can be extremely stressful for a gibbon to change locations, especially for an older gibbon. Think about if we have some of our older relatives and we were to move them from one house to another, or maybe it's even a care facility. It can be really challenging for that individual to, cope with that or to acclimate well. And so Billy's habitat, although it's an older habitat, still meets all of his needs. And that's what we look at here in the zoo when we talk about animal welfare. We have an animal welfare program here at the zoo where we are looking at every species and the needs and welfare of that species. And so we want to make sure that these animals, of course, have adequate food. Diet is extremely important, and adequate veterinary care, which is extremely important as well. And then to make sure that their habitat does meet all of the needs of the species. So as this animal is more of an arboreal species, climbing up in trees, we have tons of area for him to be able to navigate this, this space, and then proper heating and cooling during the summertime. So he has some great heaters and nest boxes, and then he will also have coolers and misters during the summertime. And he does really well. Again, he's really interested in what's going on around him. When we were having events and rentals, he can look into the event garden, which is just adjacent to his habitat. And he loved watching people. He loved watching the musicians, the bands playing. So hopefully once we get a little bit further out of our COVID situation, we'll be able to have rentals back in here and events. And those are things that he really enjoys. But as Bethany was talking about right now with the construction, he definitely is interested in all the equipment and in all the people and what they're doing, and follows them and makes sure that he's there to supervise, which is always funny to be able to watch. So with that, giving you guys some gibbon information. Emily, do we have any questions so far?
We had a couple, but I think you answered them through, your explanations. So if anyone has any additional questions, go ahead and put them in chat, and we'll try and get those asked. We did have one question, which I think you touched on, about the expansion and possibly new or additional gibbons.
Yeah, so with that expansion, we are looking at Siamangs. Siamangs is a species of gibbon, and they're a little bit larger. They're the largest of the gibbon species, even though this is a lesser ape. And they have the loudest booming call of any of the gibbons. And so they have this throat pouch that they will be able to expand and bellow out this amazing voice, this amazing song. So the Siamang is another amazing species that has a great conservation story, that definitely needs our help, needs our education. We need to connect people with animals like a gibbon, like a Lar Gibbon, the White-Handed Gibbon, like a Siamang, so that we can teach people about what's going on with these animals, where they live, what the plight of their species is. Because if we don't do that, we may not have these animals. They may not have an area to be able to survive, and the small pockets of fragmented land that they have will not be sustainable for a long-term genetic diversity that the species needs. And so it's so important that we act now. Zoos are at the forefront of that. We are on the battleground. We are the front line of teaching people about these animals that creates meaningful change where we can see conservation and research play a role in the survival of these animals. Without that, we don't have a voice. The animals don't have a voice. And so zoos play a critical role in being able to change that storyline and set these animals up for success and for survival. And a species like Billy, who has been at our zoo for a very long time, he has been able to reach the hearts of so many people to raise awareness of what's going on with this species in the wild. And we hope that that does create change in our behavior. And it's through knowledge that we can do that. So every animal here has a story to tell, and they are here for us to listen to that story. And it's up to us on what we do with it. You know, so many times people come to the zoo and they kind of just walk through and they say, oh, there's a gibbon and there's a meerkat and there's a lion, and that's great. I urge you, when you come, to stop and actually spend some time at each one of the habitats and watch the animals, connect with the animals, because it's through that that we are going to be able to tell their story. And then let's have, as a group, some change in our behavior. And when we do that, we see animals start to thrive. We see habitats grow back. We don't have to do something crazy. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to, you know, regrow tons of things here. We have to stop destroying what we're doing, leave the land alone, and it will come back, and the animals will come back, and they will thrive. We've seen that time and time again, and we can do it. And, you know, it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. The success story of these animals can be one that for generations will be able to enjoy, and the animals will thrive in the wild. So again, that Cheyenne Mountain app, the palm oil app, is a great one. We've talked about it before. And I, again, urge you to download that. It's a free download, and to use it. I use it all the time when I'm out shopping. And palm oil, they sneak into everything. It's crazy. They sneak it into our food. They sneak it into our cosmetics. It's one that is highly profitable for certain individuals to be able to farm. Although the farmers themselves in the areas where these palm plantations are being grown are getting a very poor wage. It's typically under minimum wage for the area that they are in. Living conditions are not good, but it's the only means of them to generate some sort of revenue. So we can't just take away one thing and leave people to say, oh, you can't do this, and not supply with something else. And so that's where that conservation really comes in not only saving species, but also giving the humans that live with these animals another form of revenue. We can't just go there and say, this is bad, you can't do this, and you're out of luck and out of a job, so sorry, too bad. We create other ways for those individuals to generate meaningful revenue so that they can still provide for their family and still have a life, and it's a win-win for both the animals and the humans. So just by removing palm oil doesn't mean that, you know, everyone's going to go starving, because other forms of revenue do pop up that, you know, again, help out both the humans and the animals. So the Lar Gibbon, again, one of our amazing primates that we have here at the zoo. They are our only ape. They're our only ape here at the zoo. You know, it's great to be able to have them. A lot of people ask us, well, why don't we have gorillas or chimpanzees or orangutans? And those are amazing species with great stories of their own, but they are much larger, and they have a lot of challenges that come with them. And we dedicate some of our other focuses to an elephant herd or to a lion pride. And so we have to be cognizant on the animals that we bring in and what we can care for properly. And so the Lar Gibbon, much smaller, so it's a little bit easier to care for a Lar Gibbon as opposed to a troop of orangutans. A lot of people do ask, because we live in Arizona in the Southwest, are these animals susceptible to different diseases that humans can get? And yes, they absolutely are. They are susceptible to COVID-19, which is why you saw Bethany, who was close to Billy, wearing an N95 mask. So we do wear proper PPE whenever we go in with, or not go in with, we don't go in with any of our gibbons, but whenever we work around any of our primates. They also are susceptible to coccidiomycosis or valley fever. And so that's one that we do have to keep an eye on. We know several animals are susceptible to that fungal infection. Many of us that live here in the Southwest are familiar with valley fever, and it is a very treatable fungal infection, but it's one that we do have to be careful on. And yes, all of our primates are susceptible to that. And so he has not had any exposure or shown symptoms of valley fever, but it is a risk when you bring in a primate on, are they going to get that? And treating it is usually very successful, but not always. And so that's one of the concerns also with some of our great apes, again, because they are so closely related to us. Our chimpanzees share 98% of our DNA, our genetic makeup. So a lot of things that we can get, they can get as well. So as I was yapping on there, Emily, did anyone else have a question?
Yeah, we have a few questions now. So one of them was, how much does Billy weigh?
That's a great question. I probably should have asked Bethany when she was over here. They do not weigh a lot. I'm guessing that he probably weighs around 15 to 20 pounds. So they do not weigh a lot, and that again enables them to be able to brachiate through the trees and be very nimble through thick canopy brush. And it doesn't take a lot of strength, even though these animals are extremely strong, to be able to hold up that weight. So probably somewhere between 20 and 30 pounds is what a Lar Gibbon is.
Does Billy typically sleep indoors? And when he sleeps, does he have a nest or any particular area he enjoys the most?
Yeah, we do have an off-habitat area, just like we do for all of our animals. And that's, of course, where we can bring them into, so it's safe for us to access the habitat. And he'll sometimes sleep out in his habitat when it's a nice night. So sometimes during our summer months and the nights are cool, not too hot, he will be sleeping outside, but he has a great area in the back where there are several nest boxes that again are climatized. That's where he goes, and he has blankets and nesting materials, which is interesting because the gibbon doesn't actually make a nest in the wild, but here at the zoo, he does like to make a little nest where he'll go into and hang out, and that's where he will go to sleep. So yeah, once the sun goes down, he's going to go in there and snuggle in for the evening. And that's typically where we will find him in the morning with a blanket over him and looking all nice and comfy. And he tries to wait until the sun comes up, like right now, until he's going to come out in the morning during the winter time. And then he'll sit on the fence right here where the sun hits and catches all those rays to warm up.
This is a good shot for this. We have some gourds that are hanging both on the inside and outside of the habitat. What are those for?
Yeah, those are just enrichment items. They're kind of puzzle feeders that it's easy for Bethany to, when Billy is out on habitat, she can come out and hang those and put different food items in there. So it's just a different way for him to be able to get the food. So you can see this is kind of a coconut here. And the way that coconut's shaped, it moves around, it's circular. And so he has to be able to get his hand through there and manipulate that. So it's a little bit of a mental puzzle for him. We are constantly challenging our animals through mental and physical stimulation. That's what enrichment is. And by doing that, it gives them tasks. It gives them things to be able to do just like they would have to do in the wild. Some people will say, oh, well, they're here in the zoo, so they should just get their food. Well, that's not really the way an animal works. And all animals want to be challenged. We want to be challenged. and so do our animals even here in a zoo. And he definitely will use a lot of his enrichment items. And Bethany, throughout the day, will be hiding different food and comes out here and gives different items. These guys do get kind of a morning breakfast and a lunch and a dinner, but they get snacks throughout the day as well. And sorry about the construction noise there, guys. We got some grinding and stuff going on now, but that's a good sound because that means our flamingo habitat is well on the way.
So now we have a couple of questions. You had talked a little bit about rainforest and helping preserve habitat for species like the Lar Gibbon. Are officials in Indonesia open to talking about saving the rainforest? And is there anything being done locally to encourage the sustainability to help gibbons in their home habitats?
Yeah, it's a great question. Unfortunately, there is not a lot being done to protect the rainforest. The amount of money that the palm oil plantations bring in, there is a lot of challenges that conservationists have to overcome to outweigh that revenue that some of those government officials are getting. And conservationists are making headway, and pressure from outside countries and internal conservation organizations, researchers are definitely putting pressure on. But again, the biggest thing that we can do is stop purchasing their palm oil. If we stop purchasing their palm oil, well, that hits them right in the bottom line. And unfortunately, with some of these other countries, there's a lot of corruption that happens, and that corruption tends to not benefit any of the animals. So it is extremely sad to see. And again, the hope is that we can change that story, but it is going to take a lot. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is going to take a lot to be able to overcome some of those challenges. And so it is the United States working with those organizations, putting pressure on those different countries to be able to change that behavior. And so, I talk about the palm oil app and as a consumer, what we can do. If you are the age of 18 or older, you also have the ability to vote. And laws make differences, and laws can change the outcome of the plight of our animals and the habitats they live in, not only here in the United States, but also globally, because our global relations are extremely important. And, we've had some major elections go on, and I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. That's not my job. I do encourage everyone that is of voting eligibility to vote and have your voice be heard. And by who you vote for, those individuals campaign on different platforms. And some of those are in pro to be able to save spaces and protect wild habitats, and some are not. And so I urge you, for whoever you are voting for, to make sure you know your candidate and know what they stand for and why you're voting for them, because laws do matter, and that, we are a big voice in the global community, and our voice does matter. And so we do have the ability to put pressure on other countries to change behavior, and that can be done at a legislation level as well. So hopefully everyone did go out and exercise their voting ability. Again, if you are of eligible voting age and have that ability to go out and vote. So hopefully you guys did do that, because that does make a big difference as well.
We have one more question. So people, of course, our fingernails grow and we usually have to trim them or file them down. Does Billy get his nails trimmed? Do they get worn down, or do they not grow similar to our own nails?
Yeah, it's a great question. They are made of the same protein compound as our fingernails and our hair. which is keratin. So you can see kind of Billy's fingernails there on his feet, those very dexterous feet. They will grow just like ours. He does keep them fairly filed down just with the movement of that he's doing. Even at his age, he still does a really great job, but that's definitely one of the things that Bethany is going to be looking at, or any of our zookeepers working with Billy, or any of our animals is going to be looking at is, are any of those things something that we do need to intervene with? Do we need to trim any nails? Do we need to, take care of hair mats or anything like that could come up? We don't with him. He does a pretty good job, again, just with his normal movement, being able to take care of his own nails. But yeah, as he gets a little bit older, that might be something that we need to train him to either file those nails down or to be able to trim those nails. And these animals are extremely intelligent. And so it's something that if we needed to train him to do nail trims, we definitely could.
Awesome. Well, I think that covers everything, Jed. So do you have any parting words for us today?
Absolutely. Again, I just want to thank you guys all for hanging out with us this morning. I was hoping for a Gibbon vocalization, but I'm sure he will do it once I turn the mic off, because that's always what happens and start yapping here. But just thank you guys for everything that you do here in the community for Reid Park Zoo, being a member, being a part of our community. It means so much to us, and you guys give us meaning for what we do. So thank you again for hanging out with us this morning with Billy the Gibbon. We are off next week. We're going to go to every other week, but I do have a training set up for the next member virtual chat, and it is going to be with our elephants. So I don't know which elephant we're going to be doing training with, but you guys have reached out to us and said that you would love to see some training happen. We talk about that a lot. So we're going to get you guys a training demonstration live in 2 weeks. So we're off next week, but we are back on the week after, and we hope to see you guys all right here that Wednesday morning.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And yes, as Jed said, we are switching to the first and third Wednesday of each month. So our next one will be on January 20th. So we hope to see you then, and thank you.